upper extremity kind of driver dowel wise to go after TZ1C a little bit more. So I'll pre-position my athlete into TZ1C, and okay, for the sake and the purpose of this position right here, let's say they can't get that inferior glide or that posterior rotation. So I'm going to use the left upper extremity as the driver. Obviously the right arm is working, it has to hang on, but it's kind of along for the ride, and I'm using my left upper extremity as the driver here. So boom, let's get that posterior tilt and that inferior glide. And okay, what if I want to get that retraction and that medial glide, or a combination of all of those now? So we kind of alluded to that, or got to that a second ago hybridically, but I'll go a little bit more in the a little bit more straight in the transverse plane here. Now we do have in TZ1C right here, again, we talked about how the pelvic girdle is and has release and is spinning forward towards home plate, as the thoracic spine, relatively speaking, is still giving us that right rotation. So I'll still go like in the transverse plane here, and I'll drive my hips. I'll use that as a cue, the ASIS on both sides. Drive that forward as I'm doing this little transverse plane pendy swing right here. We also get some good right rotation of the thoracic spine. I can also, in this position, if I want to go after the thoracic spine, right side bend, go with my right side bend a little bit as well, with kind of a right kind of rotation. With a right rotation. And if I wanted to bring that down a little bit, I could kind of combine everything together here. So I can get my medial glide and retraction. I can get my right rotation and right side bend of the thoracic spine, using that left upper extremity as a great driver. I'll also go with kind of a little pick and a press combo with some lunges and lawnmowers in sync. So what I mean by that, you're probably like, wow, what all does that mean? So I'll typically load myself up, couple in my clients, couple little dumbbells or squishy med balls, and you can resort back to some of the lawnmower kind of series and stuff like that. But we're going to load with a sagittal plane lunge and knee-high reach, so almost this TZ2 position, to a posterior lunge, lawnmower. So we've got this row with the right upper extremity and a press with the left. And so if I want to further maybe this load, I would maybe go right anterior medial kind of lawnmower, in sync lawnmower here. Boom and boom. What I'll also do for a TZ1C 3D pendy swing, which we'll get into as well, piggyback with our rotator cuff like work and our slapped hair related like work. Again, if we're going after the right upper extremity, what I'm going to do to get my posterior tilt and kind of inferior glide, might use a little sagittal plane lunge here with a little sagittal plane kind of pendy swing to go after those guys. If I want to get my retraction and medial glide of the scap with my left rotation, side bend of the cervical spine, eyes will be pointed forward, and I'll go with this transverse plane, common transverse plane lunge. TZ1C, great transformational zone for pitching mechanics. I will I love adding the common and uncommon lunge matrices with common and uncommon shouldered overhead presses. And I'll show you what I mean by that and ways to kind of tweak it. So let's start with just kind of a sagittal plane lunge. We'll obviously do the other side, the non-throwing side too, to stay as symmetrically balanced as possible. But what we can do now, I basically get myself in this TZ1C position, unless I want to just kind of rotate out that toe just a little bit. And here, I've got my uncommon sagittal plane, frontal plane, and transverse plane presses. And you're probably thinking, well, what does that do? It's a teeter-totter throughout the transformational zone of TZ1C. It's going to help us unload and then load again by going in basically the opposite direction. So I love adding these guys to the picture. So this contralateral, the sagittal plane lunge. I'll also, if I want to go after maybe a little more abduction, maybe a little more frontal plane, kind of bias with this, then I'll go with an anterior lateral lunge. Same thing with kind of a lateral lunge now, but I'll take this left foot, I'll take the left foot, open it on up, and then I'll take my right leg and mimic what I'll do in TZ1C. Boom. So now I'm feeding from the top down with a sagittal plane driver. With my upper extremity uncommon shoulder overhead presses, and now my uncommon frontal plane presses, and then uncommon transverse plane presses. And I should have mimicked the opposite direction of what I'll actually load in first right there. And then I'll go after, you got it, transverse plane tweak with my uncommon sagittal frontal and transverse plane drivers. Great ways to assess, great ways to treat that are basically kind of scratching the surface of what you can do with TZ1C. The launch pad, TZ1C. Boys of summer, have fun playing around with that stuff, guys.